What's going on YouTube? So a big reason why a lot of people buy luxury SUVs is because they want a stylish and bold vehicle that makes a statement. And right here today we have with us the GV80 Coupe in the new Prestige black trim. And boy does this make a statement as the flagship Genesis SUV. So let's go ahead and jump right into the review. Let's start out here with a spec dump. So under the hood of this GV80 Coupe, you can find a couple different versions of the powertrain. It's a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. This one has the E supercharger, meaning it makes 409 horsepower. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive. Combined fuel economy is 19 mpg.
Now the base price of the GV80 Coupe is around $81,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now this of course is a real-world 7-day review, so we have quite a lot to share, including our real-world fuel economy, but we need to really start out by talking about the cool black exterior that this model has.
So like I was saying at the introduction, a lot of the reason why people look for luxury SUVs is to make that bold statement. And this, I believe, is the boldest SUV in the Genesis lineup, especially here with this new Prestige Black. So we've been testing this out over the last week. We showed it to a lot of people and it definitely got a lot of attention. Everyone was like, dang, that's a good looking SUV. You can see we've got the bright white finish and then we have the gloss black finish for the grille, our logo, and our lower fascia to really give you the high contrast look overall. That even continues to the headlights as well. You'll notice these are smoked compared to the traditional GV80 Coupe, but they still have the high-end crystal design with the split look, daytime running lights, and turn signal indicators. Moving on to the wheels, we have a 22-inch alloy. This is one of the bolder elements of this exterior design. We've got the kind of unique crisscross spoke look, and of course everything in this region, including the brake calipers, are blacked out. We also have floating center caps, which is a nice bougie touch. You have your split turn signal indicators, and then as far as the mirrors are concerned, obviously they're going to be fully loaded with all the features you expect, including auto dimming for both the driver and passenger side.
Now, for those of you that watch the channel, you may actually know that my wife and I actually purchased a 2025 Genesis GV80, the SUV version. But this is really where the Coupe really comes to play, is here at the side, because you can definitely see the design differences as compared to the traditional more SUV shape like what we have. And as far as length, 195.5 inches is your vehicle length, which does mean it's about an inch longer than the traditional SUV variant. Now we have blacked out window surrounds, blacked out on the top of our door handles, and let's go ahead and head around to the rear design. Now this of course is very different as compared to the traditional SUV variant. It really stands out and certainly looks very premium, kind of like the BMW X6. So you have a little bit of a spoiler up here at the top that's going to be finished in body color. You also have a ducktail spoiler built in to really give you that premium design. Genesis is spelled out across the back. Of course, this is the black model, so that does mean that everything is going to be blacked out, including all of your logos and badging. Your taillights themselves are going to, of course, be fully LED for your brake light, your turn signal, and your reverse light. And then as we drop down to the lower fascia, of course, this is very sporty looking. We have the quad exhaust outlets because we have the E-Supercharge model. And all GV80 Coupes tow 6,000 pounds. Now I do also want to point out that Store Green has been discontinued for 2026, and as far as the black models, you can get that in either this white color or a fully blacked out variant. Now when it comes to safety systems, we've had no issues with using those this week. All of them work really well, and of course they're all standard as well, including things like Highway Drive Assist 2.0. But we've got a lot to talk about and all the luxury on the inside. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. First, here's our key fob. We have the latest Genesis key fob. Pretty nice look to this. You get a black and a white one when you purchase it. We have the black one today. And you also get Smart Park there on the side as well as remote start. Now as you approach the vehicle, the mirrors will go ahead and fold out. By the way, it does also cast a Genesis logo on the ground, which you can see in our upcoming night review. Just grab behind the handle there to unlock the door. And then let's check out the interior. So thankfully, Genesis really went the whole way when it comes to the Prestige Black. They didn't just change a little bit on the outside, but they also changed a lot of different elements on the inside as well to make it very cohesive. And before we get into those individual details, we'll start with the seats, which by the way are one of the elements. Of course, they're black, but they also have exclusive stitching for the Prestige Black. I like this nice design here. This is a Napa leather, so it's a very high-end leather and it feels super soft and supple. We have 16 ways of power adjustment, including a power thigh extension and massaging abilities for the driver's side only. And then over here, we have our memory seats. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now, as far as the rest of the materials beyond the seats, of course, they are very, very nice. With the Prestige Black, one of the things that is changed is the fact that we have a darkened wood trim through here. Normally, the E-Supercharged model will come with a carbon fiber trim, so I actually like the way this looks better. Up top, we have the leather material that runs through there, and that's going to cover the entire upper dash with the stitching detail. You'll see more generous use of this open pore wood coming through here, more of the leather material, and more of the wood down the center section. You'll even notice that the metals themselves are smoked as compared to the regular model. Again, great attention to detail, keeping this themed all throughout. And we'll fire it up with the push button start. So now we've got the car all started up, we can get into some individual details. I do want to preface, really before I dig in, is just the fact that the GV80 Coupe itself comes fully loaded as standard equipment. It really doesn't matter which of the small variations you get with the engine, or if you get the black, you're going to get all the nice goodies no matter what. Now, that one of those goodies includes the 27-inch OLED single-piece display that you see right now. Absolutely a beautiful display. I never get tired of looking at it. It's so thin and so crisp looking. That includes the gauge cluster, of course. You can reconfigure all the different widgets and various different designs. If you don't want to look at that, you can always look at the head-up display as well. And you also have your blind spot cameras, of course. Rain-sensing wipers behind the steering wheel. And then, speaking of the steering wheel itself, absolutely beautiful design on board. Flat bottom, super sporty, thick rim. It's really just a pleasure to hold. Power tilt and telescoping, and heated as well. Now, as we turn over here to our center console, we'll peek underneath the heated armrest, by the way. And you'll see inside we have some donuts. Actually, we only have two, so some is not really a good descriptor. It's a couple donuts. It's not a lot of space. There's more storage, though. When you actually move that out of the way, you can see the rest of that through there. Let me close that up. And, of course, in front of that, you have your cup holders. Again, it's got the smoked finish around it with the ambient lighting. As we go behind the wood there, you have your wireless phone charging pad and a few more connections on board. Not a ton of storage in the front. They maybe could improve that a little bit. Now, as far as the shifter, just twist to D for drive. You have paddle shifters on the back, full black again. And in reverse, we have our 360-degree camera system. When you click that button right there, that allows you to spin around the vehicle in 3D and see absolutely everything. Press that P there for park. You also have a brake hold function, and your drive mode controller is located over there on the side, as well as the button to turn on and off auto start stop. By the way, this has a new terrain mode for 2026. Moving on up here, we come to our climate controls next. It's a 3-zone automatic setup. You have physical buttons to adjust the temperature, and then you use the touchscreen with haptic feedback for many of the other things, including the rear climate. You also have a fragrance system on board and heated and ventilated seats, of course. Then above that, you have the audio control. So this is an 18 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. Let's give it a sample and see how good it is. Yeah, very, very nice. Mason and I have certainly enjoyed listening to this audio system over the past week. It really does sound fantastic. All right, now taking a look at the rest of the 27-inch display, you can see right now I'm in wireless Android Auto, but it is a seamless display. Once I actually cycle back to the main Genesis look, you can see that more evidently. There's kind of our just home screen there. You've got your different apps, including a built-in navigation system. And overall, the performance of this has been very good. Up top, we have an auto-dimming mirror. It's also a digital camera rear view mirror, which helps any visibility problems you might have with the sloping roofline. You have HomeLink remotes, a nice Alcantara headliner, and then you'll notice we have a panoramic sunroof as well. It's just a little bit smaller than it is on the regular GV80.
So let's go ahead and talk about the rear seat area of the GV80 Coupe. Before I get too into things, I do want to point out that you do have soft closed doors. There I go. Failed to close it right there, and it will go ahead and suck itself closed. And let's talk about overall legroom and headroom figures here in the second row. You're going to be pretty pleasantly surprised. So what we're looking at is 38.7 inches of legroom, 37.6 inches of headroom. That's definitely where you're going to pay a little bit of the penalty for choosing the coupe as compared to the regular GV80 is in the headroom. It is definitely a little bit lower than what we have in my wife and I's GV80, that's for sure. Now, the seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", I'm 5'9", and of course I brought along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason I did that is so I can get a realistic knee room figure. We're looking at 7.5 inches of knee room, and my feet can easily slide up underneath of the seats. Now, as far as the seats themselves, they are super comfortable back here, and they do also have quite a bit of adjustments. You'll notice over there on the side that we have full power adjusting second row seats. That's right, so you can actually slide the seats forward and backwards. You can also, of course, recline them a good distance to really make for completely epic naps here in the second row. So this is a very comfortable rear seat, and that's actually standard on every single GV80 Coupe model. Now, if I fold down the armrest, we have two cup holders inside. These are pretty big cup holders. They can actually fit a bottle easily like that, and you also have a nice felt-lined storage cubby inside. Now, we're not done with features because we do have rear vents here in the center, that same dark and finished. We also have heated and ventilated back seats. That's also standard equipment on the GV80 Coupe. Like Drew said, you get the fully loaded one standard if you choose the Coupe. Now you get two USB ports as well as a household style outlet. In addition, you have buttons to adjust the passenger seat itself. And then over on the door trim, we have new for 2026 manual side rear window sunshades. The rest of the door is absolutely beautiful as well, with tons of leather, beautiful wood trim, and a little bit of storage down in the very bottom. Walking up to the cargo area, let's go ahead and check it out. Of course, you have a standard hands-free power tailgate on all GV80 models, and let's go ahead and talk about those cargo space figures. Now, when it comes to the coupe, you do sacrifice a bit, so it's 30 cubic feet behind the second row of seats and a maximum of 62 cubic feet of space. Now, you can easily fold the second row down. It folds 60-40 split just by pressing those buttons right there, and it's going to go ahead and fully power fold down to give you that 60-ish cubic feet of space. Now, the SUV version is quite a bit bigger. That comes in at 84 cubic feet, so keep in mind your practicality needs when you're selecting between the two models. Also, if you're looking to buy a GV80 Coupe, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings, because we've looked at all the two-row midsize SUVs in the premium space and ranked them in the 10 most important categories to you all this type of buyer. Things like powertrain choices, luxury features, premium cabin materials are all detailed for you on our website, so you can see the best options in each of those vehicle segments. Now, moving back to the GV80, let me go ahead and get our cargo length, width, and height figures. It is a Car Confections review after all, so this is Drew's seating position. He's 5'8", and we are looking at, let me get it straight here, 80 inches of cargo length from behind the second row of seats, 44 inches of length It's 42 inches wide, and then the height is really where you're going to pay the penalty for the coupe. Here at the end of the cargo area, it's only about 15 inches tall, and then as far as like the highest point right there at the lip, it's about 28 inches in height. I do want to point out the cargo cover is super nicely sueded as well, so that's a very nice attention to detail in my opinion. And you can just fold the second row seats up just by pressing that button right there. And then if you lift up the cargo floor, underneath, you will find a spare tire. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Genesis GV80 Coupe. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading and discussing our real-world fuel economy after the week. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration.
All right, that's all the time it takes to get to 60 miles per hour. So with the GV80 Coupe, like we mentioned at the beginning, we've got the E-supercharged model. And what's basically different about this is that it has a mild hybrid system, and that mild hybrid system, part of its responsibilities is to power an electronic supercharger that's adding to the power quotient. We've got a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. When we add in that E-supercharger, we're up to 409 horsepower and 405 pound-feet of torque. Those are really good power figures, of course, and certainly get this up to speed just fine.
Yeah, as far as the 0 to 60, it's sitting at 5.2 seconds for this E-supercharged model. That's not going to be like super fast. It's certainly not like, a Mercedes AMG or a BMW M type of level of performance. However, it is certainly very quick, and it definitely pushes you back in your seat. Now, for the GV80 Coupe, like we said really throughout the video, you get almost everything as standard. So that does mean that you skip the base 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder that you can get on the regular GV80 and go straight to the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 just without the E-supercharger system on board. That's going to make 375 horsepower, 391 pound-feet of torque on your base end.
Let's talk about the transmission. We've got an 8-speed automatic. It is a nice and smooth transmission overall, and definitely willing to give you downshifts when you want that extra power.
Yeah, power is routed to the ground via standard all-wheel drive, and we are on our designated strip of road to talk about ride quality, so let's go ahead and dive into the subject matter. Now, for the GV80 Coupe, you do have standard adaptive dampers. However, you do not have an air suspension, so that is an important distinction that I do want to point out as compared to the German rivals, such as the BMW X6. You can obviously get an air suspension on that model, and I will say that you have worse ride here in the GV80 Coupe as compared to those German rivals with the available air suspension. It's not that this car rides bad. That's definitely not what I'm saying, but it doesn't have that next level of comfort that you can get in some of the German competition. And at this price point, I do wish that Genesis was at least offering it or including the air suspension. You'll see that demonstrated as we go over the bridge abutments here. You get a little bit of intrusion inside the cabin, especially since we have the pretty large 22-inch wheels on the outside. Now, if you were, a keen viewer and paid attention to the fact that I said my wife and I own a GV80, we have a regular SUV version without the adaptive dampers and the smaller wheels, and I will say it gets better ride quality than this fully loaded example with the larger wheels and the adaptive suspension setup. So just keep that in mind. That model is going to be a lot more luxury focused on the base end, whereas this has a little bit more of a dual character to it because it has that adaptive suspension setup. Very smooth and refined, that is for sure. Now, let's go ahead and get our sound level reading. I'll toggle us to fan speed 1. The rear climate is powered off, so we can see how quiet this model is. Wow. So if you want a library-like quietness, the GV80 is for you. 52.2 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level rating. We don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to its competition. You can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings. And indeed, just like other GV80s that we have tested out, it's really, you know, between this and the BMW X5 and X6 for quietest cabin in the segment. And really, these are some of the quietest vehicles that money can buy, regardless of vehicle segment that we look at. We, you know, cover hundreds of vehicles on this channel every single year, thousands overall. And the low 50s and to 49-ish decibels are like the lowest sound level readings that any car can get, even including things like Rolls-Royces.
All right, so now we're in sport mode. We'll give that a little test. As you can see, we've made it out to a country road, and as Mason was talking about with the ride quality discussion, this has adaptive dampers, so of course one of the things that means is it can vary how stiff the suspension is depending on which mode you're in. Now that we're in the sport mode, you can certainly tell that things have firmed up a good amount. And as we approach this corner here, we'll also be able to assess the handling. Very nice. So it went into that pretty hot there, and it definitely handled that well. Good balance to the chassis. I like the steering as well. It's got a good amount of heft to it when you go into the sport mode. And of course, you know, at the end of the day, this is not like a hardcore SUV. Mason was telling you it's not related or not considered a rival to, you know, an AMG or an M right now, until they Magma it, that is.
I'm sure that will be coming. All right, but we need to dive into fuel economy. So what are the EPA numbers? First and foremost, sitting at 1622.19 miles per gallon. For the standard model, the E-Supercharge is 1722.19 mpg. Those are not great figures, especially compared to something like a BMW X6 or a Mercedes-Benz. Those will get better fuel economy. And what's our real-world fuel economy over the past week? Well, at the time of us filming this video, we do have a few more days left in our test, so we do want to go ahead and conclude that out to give you the most accurate sample. And we'll go ahead and insert a picture on the screen with however many miles that we drove on this model and our real-world experienced fuel economy for your reference. However, of course, I do just want to point out that this is really not that efficient of a powertrain setup. We've complained about that in previous Genesis products. I've actually complained about it in my wife's GV80 as well with the 2.5 turbo. That's not efficient either. So I think that they certainly could work on that, and I do believe that they'll be offering hybrid Genesis products here shortly to improve on that. And that today is going to be our airball about the GV80 Coupe. Just the powertrain experience is lacking that level of refinement that the German rivals are including, especially for this $91,000 price.
And then the slam dunk is the refinement in all the other places, especially the interior. Again, just really impressed that they went the extra mile by going with the Prestige Black, changing out all these little individual pieces like little buttons and stuff. They actually bothered to black them out to make this really feel like a special environment. That's attention to detail you don't see in a lot of luxury brands. Many of them kind of skimp over that. They think no one's going to notice. But if you're paying $90,000+, I think you should notice those types of things. And, you know, if you're that type of person that appreciates that, this delivers.
Absolutely. And do we like it better, the same, or worse? Well, I think we're going to say better just for those little details. I think we certainly appreciated that this week. Now, the rest of the vehicle we've lived with actually several times at this point, so it wasn't too surprising. However, those little details we certainly did appreciate. Now, of course, we need to talk about pricing. All of this doesn't come cheap, as you would expect. The Coupe is significantly more expensive than the traditional GV80. It starts at $81,850, which is around $1,900 more for 2026. The E-Supercharge model is $87,650, and then if you want the Prestige Black, like what we have today, that starts at $89,400. This particular model, after destination and the optional paint, is sitting at $91,500. $500 as tested today. So this is certainly a very expensive product, that's for sure. It's manufactured in Korea, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's talk about resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. Genesis as a brand is rated at 42.08% of original MSRP after 5 years and 60,000 miles as an estimate, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, the estimated retained value is 12.47%. Now, it's worth noting that is lower than industry average for all vehicle brands. However, it is very much on par with the German luxury brands it competes with, such as BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi.
When it comes to reliability, we've also rated this aspect. And when we take into account the latest data, Genesis actually ties the overall industry average for all vehicle brands.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. It's also very important to factor in your warranty into your purchasing decision. So what is that? Well, it's going to be the best luxury car warranty out there, a 5-year, 60,000-mile basic warranty, a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Additionally, you do get 3 years and 36,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2026 Genesis GV80 Coupe Prestige Black. If you enjoyed hearing our 7-day impressions on this model, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. Also, you heard me talk about it, but my wife and I own a GV80, so if you want to at all learn about the Genesis ownership experience, we have a ton of videos on the channel that I also promise you won't want to miss out on. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.